Speaking of higher dimensions, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Darryl Anchor, but he is a man that claims to channel and pass on messages to the human race via an ET or extraterrestrial named Bashar. He has a whole website called bashar.org, so you can go check it out if you like. But during one of his live channeling sessions, the subject of mermaids and sea creatures was brought up. So I thought that would be really interesting to share with you guys and hear your opinions on it.
Mermaids, yes or no?
Longer answer than you may say.
Okay, darn.
There have been some genetic creations that would be similar to that in Atlantean times that may have given rise to some of those legends. In terms of them existing physically as a species on your Earth, no, but they are part of the nature world that again is a slightly altered, shifted vibrational reality to yours that sometimes overlaps in your reality, and therefore sometimes people who are sensitive to it can sometimes perceive those kinds of beings. Don't exist in your normal physical reality.
All right. Dragons?
Similar idea. Again, they are beings that are of a higher dimensional level that you can interact with, but they exist between the planes of dimensions. They are never presenting themselves in your physical reality as the dragon that you think they do. They look quite different when they come into your reality. But the idea is that you perceive them in the way that you do when they're in their own natural state in between the dimensions. But they are higher levels of wisdom.
Megalodon.
Well, that exists. It's a giant shark.
Does it exist right now?
Several do.
Yes!
In the very depths of your oceans. And a few other things you haven't found yet.
Oh, cool. Way cool. How about a hollow earth?
No, not physically.
Okay.
Again, people that may have, without intending to, cross through different dimensional vortices may find themselves in a reality that because of their understanding of physical reality, they think actually physically is inside the earth, when in fact they're no longer on the earth anywhere at all.
Huh. Really?
So they just make the assumption when they come back through that particular portal that they've actually physically been inside the earth, and they haven't. They've been somewhere else.
Dude, that just blew my mind. I don't know about you. This is also really interesting because I've been getting tagged in this video a lot. I'm sure you've probably already seen it.
Suddenly, there's a wiggling black figure that appears from the tree line.
That video is a few years old, and there are several that are quite similar to that. That really makes you question what old mate just said. I don't know. What do you guys think?
The Sumerian gods are returning.
So it is said, whispers throughout the Pentagon and NASA scientists state that the Sumerian gods are returning, that Nibiru is nearing the planet in its orbit. See, after the war we previously talked about, the Draconian Anunnaki left angry. They feel that they have just as much right to own this planet or live here as humans do. So upon their return, they're going to try to take it back. This is why all this weird stuff is going on. See, there's been some of them here all along, influencing the elite. And in doing this, they are helping shape our world at the moment. Now, where are the Syrian Anunnaki, you might say? Well, they're watching, and they're watching closely. They're going to let mankind get pushed and pushed to the brink. And they're hoping that this will help us ascend to the next level of consciousness. Because once we ascend to the next level of consciousness, we, in turn, become very powerful beings. But based on texts that I've read, ancient Sumerian tablets, etc., they do say, yes, another great war for the planet Earth is going to break out. And unfortunately this time, we are going to be heavily involved. There's going to be a lot of manipulation and a lot of deceit. And this may be by our own people. It's hard to say. But in this manipulation and deceit, it's going to look like doom and gloom for the human race and the planet Earth. It's going to look like we are going to cede the planet to the Draconian Anunnaki. But at the exact moment it's beginning to look the darkest, the Lemurians, the Syrian Anunnaki, and all the different beings in inner Earth are going to emerge from the underground tunnels all over the world. And when they do this, a new hope is going to arise. It's not going to be easy, and the battle is going to be intense. But ancient lore tells us that good will prevail. that with the combining of the powers of all the beings on earth and in inner earth, who are inherently good, our power cannot be matched. And once we realize this, good will stomp out evil once and for all, leading us in to the next dimension of consciousness and stomping out the draconian Anunnaki for eternity. Meaning they will no longer have a stronghold over any of mankind, and that they will give up on their campaign to take back Earth. We will then be allowed to join our comrades in the Galactic Federation. Now, is all of this true? Your guess is as good as mine. But if any of this is true, I sure hope this is.
Here are things that you cannot do in the astral realm, part 2. Number 1, you cannot fly through alien spacecrafts. People actually report seeing spacecrafts while they're astral and try to fly through them, but they hit them. Then these beings that are in the craft look at them like they're mad. This is because most ETs have technology which is interdimensional. So their craft is part of that dimension, not the 3D. When you're astral, you can fly through 3D objects, but not 4D ones. Number 2, you can't go to Mars. Just like how former Israeli space chiefs said last year, governments on Earth are working with ETs and underground bases on Mars. These beings also have technology to keep astral projectors away. Basically, if you try and go there, they'll spot you. I was actually DM'd by a few astral projectors and they told me that when they went to Mars, they were chased off by some beings. I don't know how true that is, but noted. Number 3, you can't just visit any inhabited planet. Many civilizations actually aren't fond of human beings, and our energy tends to be lower than theirs, so our energy could actually be toxic to them. Many civilizations just see us as dramatic children. That right there just says a lot on how much evolution we gotta do. Number 4, this one's surprising. You can't just go and visit your spirit guides. Many people astral project because they want to visit their spirit guides, but they're told they're not ready. Human consciousness isn't high enough yet to the point where everybody could just understand the whole reincarnation process. So really, visiting your spirit guides would be useless, and these beings know that. Until you are ready, you can't visit them. Astral projection is real, and if you learn how to do it properly, it's 100% safe. I suggest if you want to do this for real, learn how to meditate and learn about the astral realm first. I honestly can't wait till everybody does this.
1,000 years ago, where they were the first astronauts to cross space and colonize another planet. The planet Earth was inhabited only by wild animals such as mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, and some apes. The Anunnaki settled in Mesopotamia and built a wonderful city called Eridu. In this city, there was a splendorous garden full of fruit trees and animals. The garden created by the Anunnaki was named Eden, and the first favorite place of the astronaut gods. Shortly after, gold extraction began in underground mines. To do the heavy tasks, they brought with them slaves from another alien race, the Igigi. After years of forced labor and humiliation, the Igigi rebelled against the Anunnaki, giving rise to the first war on Earth. The Igigi were defeated and decimated. The Anunnaki needed new workers. The solution was to create a new race of intelligent beings, able to work, but more harmless than the Igigi. The Anunnaki combined their genes with the ancestors of human beings, creating a hybrid and submissive race at their command. This genetic fusion did not go very well at first. Strange beings came to life, like the Nephilim giants, which, although extraordinarily strong, were devoid of intelligence and self-control. The first man to emerge from this successful genetic combination was named Adamu. Compared to human beings, the Anunnaki were incredibly tall and strong, and their weapons would be more than enough to control another possible rebellion. Over time, humans developed the ability to speak and learn from the Anunnaki, to take care of plantations and build houses made of clay and stone. The Anunnaki came to like human beings. They even allowed them to live in their city and attend the sacred garden, but gave explicit orders not to reproduce too much. Against the will of the gods, human beings began to procreate quickly, which caused overpopulation in the city. Many people were expelled from Eden and Eridu, and condemned to live in exile in wildlands. After a few millennia, the planet Nibiru approached the Earth again. Nibiru's gravitational field was so strong that it adversely affected the Earth's natural conditions. There was an increase in the temperature of the planet, and the glaciers melted, rapidly raising the level of the oceans and causing constant rain. A great flood ravaged the earth, and the city of Iridu was doomed to submerge. To save their creation, the Anunnaki created large boats that floated for days to normal water level. In this part, it is not clear whether the boats floated on the water or whether the boats were ships hovering in the sky. After their city was destroyed, the Anunnaki decided to return to Nibiru, but before they left,
Team Clean. No, I'm telling you the truth. I did not put sound effects on that woman.
August 14th, 2016. During an interview, the internal processing system of Hillary Clinton short circuits. It is clear now to everyone that Hillary is a robot. To everyone except one.
I am a real person.
Creepiest videos. Part 12.
So I've just come across a really interesting TikTok that I want you guys to see.
So I ran across a video on TikTok where somebody had claimed to not be able to see a plane at all through the camera or through his eyes unless he used a certain filter on Snapchat. And there are a few videos that make these same claims that we can't see certain things with our naked eyes, but only through a certain filter on our camera.
I haven't personally experienced this with the Snapchat camera or anything like that, but what it did remind me of was these pieces of dysyanin glass supposedly scattered all across Russia unexpectedly. Now, when you Google anything to do with dysyanin dye or dysyanin glass, it comes up with search results saying that it's basically illegal in like most countries and most areas, which is apparently due to the fact that when the dye is placed in between glass or a film of dye applied to a looking glass, it is supposedly said that it actually reveals a subject's aura. I found this brief paper on it from the British Institute of Radiology. You can find this on Google if you just type in dysyanin glass. Anyway, now there are versions of this all over the internet supposedly suggesting that if you buy this pair of glasses that have an element of the dye in it, you'd be able to see auras and essentially the paranormal. They're expensive, and considering this dye is extremely hard to access, I'm really not sure how legit these would be. The chemical compounds that make up this dye can be found on Reddit, but let's just leave that to the chemists. Now, the whole point of this is so that I can now show you this video that was taken in Russia, found in random locations scattered apparently all across Russia. If you can speak Russian, please help to translate in the comments, that would really help.
Еще, короче, целый час там простоял. Нифига больше не увидел. Ладно, давайте, всем пока.
Всем привет. Мне тут сказали, что в ролике у меня еще 2 шара пролетает мимо. Посмотрел. Точно. Давайте посмотрим.
Обычное небо, обычные люди, блядь, ходят, все нормально. Оп. Вот такая.
Вот они, 2 шара. Тарелочка и 2 шара. Даже не заметил во время съемки, когда я снимал.
Now let's also take into consideration the visibility of the human eye spectrum compared to that of other animals. Essentially, the human eye's primary colours can be broken up into basically 3. A mantis shrimp has 16 different colour receptors compared to that of our 3. So when considering all of the different species that seem to have such a vastly different perspective of the colour spectrum, it makes a little bit more sense that there would be stuff out there that we aren't able to see, which makes it so interesting to consider the possibility that there are things like these Snapchat filters and certain types of dyes that are really hard to access, what have you, that disconnects us from a certain portion of the perceivable human reality that we're bound to, and the physics that restrict us as human beings. Such a fun theory to explore. What do you think?